Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry for the slow start. Do, do, do. Bum, 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 bum. Is it scary enough? Hi. Hi, 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 hi. Blah, 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 blah. What's up? What's up? Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. How's it going, Bites? How's it hanging? I hope you're doing well today. Blah, scary waves, scary waves, scary waves. I'm definitely not the best with like setting up all of these. But I think I'm scary, right? If I get up close and I go, once upon a time, in a land far, far away, ghosts and ghoulies liked to come out to play. Like, is it like, does it work? Does it? I think so. I think so. Faux show, faux show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Goodness, we doing scary story readings today. I'm not gonna lie, it's partly because I want to test this. I want to test these stories as well as this kind of a stream. I think it'd be fun. Whoop, whoop. I've got this book that I have had like since I was a child. I found it, I want to say it's some sort of a museum somewhere. It's called The Scary States of America, and it's got a scary story apparently based on true events for every state. Oh god. That hurt. What's up, Steve? Welcome in. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for subbing. Thank you for resubbing. 4 months already. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. I'm trying so hard. What do you mean pretending? I am big scawy spider. I am scawy spider, you know? I am scawy spider. I just am. It just is. It just be. Yeah, I've got Scary States of America today. That's the book that we're going to be reading from. I'm going to read you the back of it. I'm going to read you the back of it first. It says, aliens, ghosts, and monsters haunt the pages of this eerie trip around the scary states of America. With Jason Spector, the nation's official collector of all things paranormal. As your guide, meet the girl in Illinois who can start fires with her mind, the skunk ape of Florida, which knocks victims flat with its stench, the mischievous shadow people of Arkansas. You may find yourself checking over your shoulder for the dangerous Jersey Devil or the extraterrestrials who visit Washington State and take human organs as souvenirs. You might even feel sorry for the wailing ghost of a teenage girl trapped forever in an Oregon lighthouse. Some of these visitors from other worlds don't mean to hurt anyone, and some of them do. Dude, I'm scared of spooners and you ain't scary. God damn it. No, I'm scary spider. I'm such a scary, scary spider. Yeah, I've chosen a couple stories in here already to read. Some of my like favorites from when I was a kid, and some ones that I just really enjoy. The Arkansas one that it mentions is actually a really good story that I remember liking a lot when I was a kid. That's one of the ones that we are going to read. But yeah, I think this will be a fun time, and plus I'm gonna have a lot of fun reading the story. I'm gonna have a lot of fun reading the stories. Ooh. Bum, ba-da-bum. How are y'all today, though? Before we start, check in. How you doing? How's it hanging? You doing good? Are you working today? Has it been a good week? I've been so like ugh. I discovered today that it's because it's, you know, about that time for Shark Week for the spider and all of that. So that's great, and I feel so great. But yeah, I've felt so bleh probably for the past week and a half, 2 weeks or so, like that, something like that. Bleh. I'm hoping after the next month starts, everything will be back to normal, and I won't feel so booty. Because it's been a struggle. I need it to not. Good goodness. Boo boo. Boo boo boo. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-bow. Bow, ba-da-dum, bow. Bow, bow. Bow, ba-da-dow. Bang, bang, bang. Bada, bang, 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 bang. Hooah, hooah, hooah. All right. Should we start with Arkansas and go in order? Or that's the one thing, that's what I didn't I didn't check and see, like, oh, should we start and go in order, or should we just start with one that I really like? I do like the My Father Disappeared one. And I like the what is this? Oh, the How to Solve Your Own Murder one is pretty good. That's Ohio. Ohio. Buh, 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 buh. Hold on, I'm gonna just make it so that this will. There we go. Yeah. Now, as I look down to read, it won't be so crazy. Like, can you tell? Can you tell? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm also gonna give us some ambiance. Some ambiance. Not you, not you. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Oh, stop that one. Play this one. Okay. Ho, ho, ho. Are we scary enough? Is Croissant scary enough up in the corner? I would say so. He's got weird colors going on today. Mm. He looks so unsettling in the black and white. Goodness. Scary sounds. Can you hear them all right? Scary noise, scary sounds. Wow. Bleh. Today we work with heart. We work with heart. Okay, I do think let's start with a pretty easy one. Like the thing said, it's not every single story is about things trying to hurt things and people. Some of them are kind of just like ooh, ooh, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So I think we'll start with My Father Has Disappeared. What happens if you put me in the jar? Then I'll be spooky, scary spider in the jar. Then you'll get stories from a spider from a jar. That's what happens. That would be silly. That would be silly. It would be silly spider time, is what it would be. Mm. This is established lore. You aren't scary. No, I'm scary. I'm scary. Look at all of this. Look at these legs. Look at those legs. I can wave them. Go. Ooh. Oh, scary. Oh. 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 Watch out. I'm coming for you. Whoa. Ah. Scary. I can go. Whoop. Ooh. Real quick. I'm so scary. Listen. it 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 is in my head canonically that I am scary, okay? I'm scary. My spider-isms are scary, okay? Okay? You see these teefies? Hold on, let me just you see these teefies? That's scary. I can eat. I'll eat you because I'm a spider. It is, okay? It just is. Let me. It's story time, Steve. Sit down. All right? It's story time. We're starting with My Father Disappeared, which is from South Dakota. Did I say that already? Remember, the name of the book is Scary States of America. So various different states, one story each from each state in America. This book is like freaking 20 years old at this point. There's no cover on it. It is so beat up because of how much I fucking used to play with it and read it. I used to take this thing everywhere. I've always loved scary shit, and I think that that's kind of hilarious, actually. Anyway, South Dakota, my father has disappeared. What I learned in history class. It always starts with like what I learned in history class and stuff like that as a little thing for the area. And then it gives you the story you won't find. Oh shit, the story you won't find in your textbook. And you know, I think that's a pretty cute. I think that's pretty cute. We're gonna try. We're gonna try and read them like that. I'm switching things around real quick because I think it'll work better. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. No, that'll work better. That'll work better. All right. You know, if I'd have thought about it, I probably could have done like a voice changer thingy too to make it spookier. But it's okay. It's fine. I didn't think about it. I'm pretty sure the voice changer thing is free. I could have found one. Either way, my father has disappeared from South Dakota. What I learned in history class. Located in the Black Hills of South Dakota, Mount Rushmore National Memorial depicts the faces of 4 former presidents of the United States. It took 400 men working more than 14 years to carve out the faces of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. That's the little fun fact. So if you didn't realize that Mount Rushmore was in South Dakota, there you go. You've learned something this stream. It's officially an educational stream. Now, here's the story that you won't see in your textbooks, all right? Sometimes I listen to a radio show out of South Dakota that streams live over the internet. The host is a psychic named Marjorie Brigham. One night I decided to put her psychic powers to the test and to have a little fun with her too. I worked up the courage to call the show. It took a while, but I finally got through. Hi, Marjorie. My name's Jason, and, I'm a psychic too. Really? Marjorie replied. I couldn't tell if she believed me or not. Well, what do you do with your psychic powers? Jason. I help the police solve crimes, I answered. That's a very noble use of your powers, Marjorie said. Tell me about some of your cases. Well, I helped police in New York find a boy named Timmy Barber who was missing in the woods. And I helped the police in Colorado solve the murder of a woman named Marilyn Tilbit. And Jason? Yeah? You're not telling me the truth, are you? Well, I. You know about these stories, but you weren't the psychic responsible for solving them, were you? How did you know? I blurted out. I knew it was dumb the moment I said it. Right, you're a real psychic. Actually, I'm a collector of stories about psychics and other paranormal stuff. Got any good ones? Of course. What's your best story? All right, I'll tell you, even though you lied to me. Hello, you are on the air. Yeah, hi. My dad's gone missing. I want to know if you can help me find him. That's so wild, right? Like, what do you mean your dad's just gone missing and you decided to call up a psychic on the fucking radio to do that? What the hell? Hold on, they probably explain more. That's how the phone call to my radio call-in show began. Most of the calls, I get involved missing people, missing pets or valuables or predictions for the future. A few times I've even helped out the police. This obviously distressed teenager called and identified himself as Justin Livermore. Tell me what happened, Justin, I said. 2 nights ago, my dad and I went for a walk and just never came back. Oh, my dad. I thought it said and I. My dad went for a walk and just never came back. I was staying overnight at my friend's, and when I got home the next morning, my mom was frantic. She told me the story. She had called Dad's friends, the store where he worked, and a few of the local bars where he liked to hang out, but no one had seen him. We called the police, but so far they haven't been able to find him. That's why I'm calling you. I told Justin to send me a photo of his father, along with a few of his personal belongings. The next day, a package arrived at the radio station. The framed photo showed Justin with his mom and dad standing in their living room. Justin had also sent me a watch and a ring that belonged to his father. That night at home, I set the ring, the watch, and the photo of the Livermore family on my kitchen table. Closing my eyes, I placed one hand on the watch and the other on the ring. I breathed deeply, opening my mind to the psychic energy I believed to be inherent in all objects. Suddenly, a flood of intense, haunting images rushes into my mind's eye, like a slideshow zipping by a lightning speed. A chain link fence, a blood-stained bedsheet, a wrench, a shovel, a pickup truck, and finally, a rifle. I opened my eyes, let go of the objects, and fell back into my chair, breathing hard. I felt passionate emotion, and horrific violence connected to the watch and the ring. I sensed that this was more than a simple missing persons case. I stared at the photo, preparing myself to receive the psychic impressions it had to offer. I placed it in the palm of my hands on either side of the frame. Enormous waves of rage radiated from the image. But were they coming from the mother, the father, or the boy? I experienced a sensation I never had before. The random images and emotions radiating from the objects before me gelled into an incredibly realistic vision. I was looking through someone else's eyes. I instantly knew where I was. I recognized the furniture from the photo. I was standing in Justin's living room. I passed by a mirror and paused. The face staring back at me was that of Justin's father. I was viewing events through his eyes. I caught a glimpse of a quick movement in the mirror. I spun around, but not in time to stop the shadowy figure from slamming me in the head with a blunt metal object. Searing pain shot through my skull as I hit the floor. Blood poured down my face and into my eyes, impairing my sight. The distorted figure moved swiftly, clutching a bloody wrench in its tightly clenched fist. Wiping the blood from my eyes and fighting off waves of dizziness, I looked up into the barrel of a rifle. In that instant, I knew that Justin's father wasn't missing. He had been murdered. This was by far the strongest psychic connection I'd ever made. So strong, in fact, that I had no idea what would happen if I were to be shot while inhabiting this vision. Would I die too? I fought to regain my feet, but the loss of blood was too great. Slumped in agony on the floor, I heard the click of the trigger. The world spiraled in slow motion. I would actually see the bullet leaving the barrel of the rifle, roaring toward my head, but I couldn't move. Bam! I felt the life drained out of me. I knew that Justin's father was dead, but was I? Somehow, I continued to watch in horror through the dead man's eyes, as the murderer wrapped my disfigured body in a bedsheet. I felt myself being dragged along a gravel driveway and then dumped into the back of a pickup. Paige, oh, it's a little... Okay, there we go. My vision was obscured by the cotton sheet as I bounced along the cold metal truck bed. The truck screeched to a stop, and I tumbled to the ground. I could just make out the shadowy image of a figure digging furiously behind an old chain-link fence in the woods. The world spun as the killer rolled my body into the shallow grave and tore away the sheet. Shovelful after shovelful of dirt rained down on me. Peering up from my own grave, I watched as the clouds broke and pale moonlight shined down on the face of my killer, Justin's mother. She was instantly recognizable from the photo. The dirt continued to cover me. I was being buried alive. Was I still alive? Everything became silent and dark. My eyes snapped wide open. Cold sweat drenched my body and my heart raced as I took gasps of air. I was back in my own body, looking down at the photo of the Livermore family. I called the police and told them what I had seen. Of course, they were skeptical, but my clues gave their investigation a new direction. Justin's mother was soon arrested, and the police later learned that she had discovered that Justin's dad was cheating on her, and in a rage, she had killed him. She called the police to file a missing persons report to throw them off the trail, and to keep the truth from her son. But she could not keep the truth from me. That's crazy. That's crazy. See, when I was younger, I remember thinking to myself, like, oh, if these are all true stories, some of these are quite crazy. Like, some of these are kind of insane stories to hear somebody have gone through. Imagine being a teenager, right? Your dad goes out for fucking milk one day, and your mom is frantic when you get back in the morning, like, my God, I have no clue where your father is. My goodness. And the police don't know anything. Nobody has seen him. Nobody knows a single thing about where this man is. And so, out of desperation, you call a random psychic that you've heard of on the radio. And that random psychic tells you that your mother fucking killed your dad. And it ends up being true. Like, the investigation the police lead end up actually uncovering that, yeah, your mom killed your dad. That's crazy. To get all that info off of a radio from a medium is crazy. I could not imagine. Good goodness. All right. Let's do circles in the field in Iowa. Iowa. Circles in the field. What I learned in history class. Meredith Willson, a native of Mason City, Iowa, was the author of the composer of The Music Man. Music Man! Which premiered on Broadway in 1957. One of those famous numbers from the musical is Iowa Stubborn, which describes the ways Iowans can be obstinate, but always charitable. And now, the story you won't find in your textbook. If there's one thing I really hate, it's when people fake spooky stuff as a joke or to rip others off. Lots of people fake crop circles. I get stories all the time from my fellow paranormal aficionados who have been called out to farms to investigate so called extraterrestrial created circles. They get there only to find some crudely stamped down corn, obviously the work of imposters. But a good IM buddy of mine who specializes in crop circle stories told me about a story he personally verified. Circle Fan, apparently that's his name. got a live one for you, Spectre. Paraguay. What? More people with ropes and boards making fake crop circles? Circle Fan. No, dude. I'm talking real crop circles. Alien visitors. The whole enchilada. Paraguay. Is this really Circle Fan? The guy who told me 99.9% of all crop circles are fake? The guy who knows every method for pulling off crop circle hoaxes? What happened to Mr. Cynical? Circle Fan. I know. And I was skeptical too. But this one? This one is real. Come and see for yourself, dude. We'll check it out together. I told Circle Fan, whose real name is Ben, that my family was taking a road trip through the Midwest later in the summer, so he was eager for me to visit him and the Mockin farm near Iowa City. The site of these so-called crop circles. So I met up with Ben, who turned out to be 17 and had just gotten his license. He picked me up at my aunt's house, and on the way to the Mockin farm, he filled me in on the details. Ben, I'm trying to keep an open mind here, I said as we headed out of Iowa City, zipping through a sea of cornfields on our way to the Mockin farm. We've been IM buds long enough that you know I'm open to all kinds of really strange stuff. Spectre, you just don't buy that crop circles could be anything but fakes, right? He asked. Well, that's why I wanted to check this farm out until you got here. I'm a skeptic too, but I know smart people who've seen these circles and they swear they're real. Okay. I've been doing some more reading, and some of these circles are really starting to check out. Ben continued. I read about scientists who studied one Iowa field where the plants were bent in a teardrop-shaped depression. They discovered that those plants had been exposed to what they called a complex energy burst, like a microwave oven. You know, microwaves cook food from the inside out. Well, all these plants were drained of all moisture from the inside while remaining unburned on the outside. That still doesn't mean extraterrestrials are behind it, I said, enjoying giving him a hard time. All right, Spectre. I think... think about it. In this other case, 2 huge crop circles showed up in a field overnight. No way anyone would have time to fake those. Then, the following year, when soybeans were planted in the field, only the seeds planted within the crop circles sprouted. The rest of the field stayed brown. I kept giving Ben a hard time, but I was sort of excited by the time we got to the Mockin farm. I had agreed to keep an open mind, and what I found was unreal. Thanks for coming, guys, said a 15-year-old boy who introduced himself as Charlie Mockin. His dad owned the farm. Hey, Charlie, I'm Circle Fan, Ben said, shaking the boy's hand. You can call me Ben. This is my buddy Jason Spector. He also has a website. Hey, thanks for us coming out here. Oh, thanks for letting us come out here, I said, shaking Charlie's hand. Charlie got in touch with me as Circle Fan website when the weird stuff started happening on his dad's farm. Ben explained as we started walking into the enormous cornfield. Ben, told me you don't believe crop circles are real, Charlie said to me. But if this one's fake, I have no idea who could have faked it. This is what I'm saying, dude, Ben said, putting his face right up to mine. The 3 of us made our way through the perfectly straight rows of corn, which towered over my head. Then, out of nowhere, the field opened up into a huge circle. Oh god, sticky page. There was no path leading to or from the circle. It was just there, as if a giant with a round foot had stepped on the field. But the cornstalks weren't broken. They were only bent over, as if someone had gently folded each one, careful not to snap them. The circle was enormous, measuring about 45 feet in diameter. The bent corn spiraled to the center of the circle. My family's been farming this land for 5 generations, Charlie told us as we stood in the middle of the circle. My dad's the head of the local farmers' co-op. My grandfather even ran for city council. Everyone in the area knows my family. We're not ones to start believing in ghosts or UFOs. I mean, no offense. I know you write about all this stuff on your website, but that's just not who we are. It's okay, I said. I didn't believe in this stuff either until I had firsthand experience myself. I walked back to the edge of the circle and grabbed a cornstalk. I tried to bend it gently without breaking it, but it snapped in half in my hands. I tried again, bending another one even more slowly. But again, the stalk snapped in my hand. I can't figure out how someone could bend each of these cornstalks without breaking them, I said. Told ya, Ben said, smiling a goofy smile. Sometimes people are way cooler online than in person. Yo, I get that. I thought. We had investigators visit the farm, Charlie continued. They ruled out all the hoaxes they know about. And they've seen a bunch. They couldn't explain it, so they just left it as is. My dad has a friend who worked in a lab in Iowa City, so he borrowed a meter for measuring radiation from the guy. We scanned the crop circle and sent the results to the lab. My dad's friend said that the meter was picking up traces of energy similar to microwaves. Called it plasma energy, whatever that is. Ben glanced over at me with an I told you so look. But the real show starts after dark, Charlie explained as we walked along the outside of the enormous circle. What do you mean? I asked. That's when the glowing begins, he said matter-of-factly. Glowing? I thought. This I have to see. Why don't you guys stay for dinner? Charlie said. Then I can show you. Thanks, I said, pulling out my cell phone. I called my aunt's house and asked permission to stay for dinner. Ben did the same. Cool. Thanks for the invite, I said after hanging up. Ditto, said Ben. After a dinner of fresh corn and chicken, we sat with Charlie and his parents on the porch, watching the sunset. Stars appeared, slowly filling the vast Iowa sky as it turned from dark blue to black. Come on, Charlie said after a while. It should be dark enough. After grabbing a flashlight and the borrowed radiation meter, he led us back out to the cornfield. His folks stayed. They've already seen this too many times for their liking, he told us. As we approached the circle, it seemed the sky was getting brighter. What's going on? I thought. It should be getting darker out here away from the house, not lighter. Then I saw it. The glow came from the crop circles. Bright white light rose toward the sky and formed a perfect wall around the circle, like a sheer curtain of radiant energy. I don't think you could fake this, I said, getting that creepy but thrilling sensation I always get in the presence of the truly paranormal. Yes, Ben yelped. This is so cool. Oh man, this is a real deal. Spectre's here to see it. I caught a glimmer of movement out of the corner of my eye. Glancing up, I saw a brilliant white light streaking across the sky on the other side of the field. What's that? I nearly shouted, pointing to the sky. I have no idea, Charlie replied. I've never seen that before. Then he hurried across the field, away from the circle toward the light in the sky. When we reached the far side of the field, the glowing of the circle dimmed, and the light moved slowly down toward us. As it hovered overhead, I noted its tubular shape and brilliant glow. I couldn't tell if it was a solid vehicle or some kind of energy phenomenon. That's when Charlie switched on the radiation meter. He held it over his head, pointing the device right at the glow in the sky. The meter flashed and beeped. "Hold my flashlight," Charlie said, handing it to me. I shined the beam onto the face of the meter. "I'm no scientist," he said, "but I have seen these readings before. The readings coming from that light are the same as that plasma stuff, exactly the same as what was coming from the crop circles." The needle on the meter shot up to maximum and seemed to be pressing higher. Smoke poured from the device. Startled, Charlie dropped the meter, and it hit the ground in a shower of sparks and flames. At that moment, the light in the sky swooped down even closer. We began running back to the house, but we were no match for the streaking orb. As the light grew nearer, I heard a loud humming in my ears. My skin began to tingle like an electrical current that was coursing through my body. My hair stood straight up and started smoking. My fingertails began to glow bright red. My fingernails began to glow bright red. "Stir!" Ben cried. My body was burning up. I was being fried to a crisp. I fell to the ground as a cooling force from the direction of the crop circles washed over me. The burning stopped, but my entire field of vision went white. "I can't see!" I screamed. "Can't see!" Everything flashed before me. Every ghost, creature, or UFO I'd ever encountered or even read about. For a brief second, I was back in that horrible locker in 4th grade, unable to breathe, trapped with a dead boy. I cursed myself for ever getting into all of this, and now I was blind. Oh? Then, suddenly, I could see again. I jumped to my feet in time to see the white orb streak into the sky. It stopped and hovered right above the crop circle in a brilliant flash that made the ground shake. The light of the circle seemed to engulf the glowing orb, pulling it toward the ground. And then, all was still and quiet. Smoke rose from the circle, which was now nothing more than an area of charred earth. The crop circle had healed and protected me. But from what? Some sort of cosmic battle was being fought right here in Iowa. I felt like an innocent bystander who had been struck by shrapnel but lived to tell the tale. I checked my body for any scars or burns, but the skin on my arms was smooth. "You saw it, Jason," Ben shouted when he saw that I was all right. "You know it was real." The mock and crop circle became just one more farmer's story. But I knew better. I knew it was real. I had seen and felt it, and it took over a month for my hair to grow back. God damn. God damn. Yo, honestly, the story he's talking about the boy in the locker, I think that's the first one. Is that the first one? No, because this is the hitchhiker. Do 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 do. I think it'd be so interesting to be like a paranormal investigator, you know, going out, investigating creepy places, investigating creepy things like that. I think it'd be so interesting. You'd get to see such weird and unfathomable stuff. Fire in the Mind, I know that one. The Cry in the Night. We'll probably do that one too. Night Marchers. Ooh. Walking, scary, slow walking. Hey, Baker! Welcome in, welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Just having some fun reading some stories. My house is bleeding. That's another one that's pretty good. Skunk Ape is Florida. I'm doing good. Hanging out, trying something new today. Trying something new. Also, I need to stop just like defaulting from doing good. I'm actually fucking like I feel a bit booty because it's you know that time of the month and I have been feeling blessed for like the past 2 weeks now. It's been a booty time. Yeah, story time. Scary story time with Smol. We're reading stories from this book that I've had for years. It's called The Scary States of America. And it's it's pretty cool. Apparently it is stories that are based on true events. Apparently. So, you know, we'll have to see take your own, you know, insights. Take what you hear and choose if you believe it or not. I have loved this book so hard over the years. The front cover is straight up clean off. The back cover has a corner that's torn off and is slowly but surely tearing itself. This book is well loved. It was well loved by a small. It's a good one. There are some really great stories. I'm gonna go ahead. Arkansas is one of my favorites. Um, it is actually, yeah, I don't think I mentioned it is Scary States of America. You know, that's the name of the book, and there is a story, a scary story from each state in here, from each and every state. The one that we just read, the was an alien story about crop circles called Circles in the Field. And that was from Iowa. That one took place in Iowa. Now we're gonna read a story from Arkansas called Living Shadows. This one actually like scared me when I was younger. If I as long as I remember this correctly, but I'm pretty positive this is the one that I remember. Arkansas, Living Shadows. Do, 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 do. It's amazing how many other kids across the country are into the paranormal. Once I started writing my blog, I began hearing from kids who seemed to be just as into it, all this stuff, as me. Well, almost as much. I traded stories with other paranormal junkies, and one of the first friends I made was Freakboy479 from Helena, Arkansas. Here's an email he sent me. Tara! Thank you so much
Spooky.
for resubbing. I appreciate you. Thank you. What's up, Tara? Yeah, we're having a spooky, scary time today. This story is from Arkansas, Living Shadows. From Freakboy479 at anet.net to Jason Spector at scarystatesofamerica.com. Subject, Shadow People. No, please do your thing. I appreciate you. Lovely to see you, Tara, always. Hey, Jay. Dude, you gotta check out the Shadow People. Have you ever seen one? Like, you catch something moving out of the corner of your eye, then you look at the spot where you thought you saw it only to see there's nothing there? Or you see a dark shape move across the wall and you wonder who in your family is making the shadow, and then you remember you're home alone? Anyway, I helped my friend Tyler write down this experience he had so we could send it to you. Don't worry, I made him promise he wasn't making any of it up, so it's legit for your site. Peace out, FB479. My friend Aaron, who I guess you know as Freak Boy, made me swear on my mother's life that this story is true, and promised to beat me up if it turns out to be a hoax. So you can trust me. I was babysitting my 3-year-old brother, Wesley, not too long ago. My folks were out for the evening, and did I bleed on these pages? Oh god. And I was hanging out in my room, listening to my iPod, when I started to feel like something was watching me. It was so weird. I didn't see anything. I just had this totally creeped out feeling. I popped my earphones out and slid down to the front of the bed. I turned my head slowly, looking back over my shoulder. I could swear I saw something move in the corner. I blinked hard a couple of times and rubbed my eyes. When I opened them again, whatever I thought I'd seen was gone. That was really weird, I thought. But as I went to slip my earphones back in, I heard a noise out in the hall. It sounded like something was banging on the walls. What the heck? I said out loud. If that's Wesley causing trouble. I slid off my bed, stood up, and pressed my back against the wall of my room, inching slowly toward the door. I knew I'd feel silly if it was my brother banging around in the hall, but I still had that creepy feeling. I took 2 deep breaths, then swung out into the hallway. Boy, did I feel dumb. There was no one there. Nice going, Tyler, I thought. You can't even be home without Mom and Dad for a couple hours without freaking out. I shook my head and went back into my room. That's when I saw it again. And this time, out of the corner of my eye, a short, dark figure crouched beside my bed. I backed away, staring at the shadow. Who are you? I cried. I couldn't be sure it would even had a shape of a person. For a second, it looked like an ordinary shadow, but in the next second, it morphed into a swirling mist. Again, I backed toward the door, keeping my eyes locked on that thing near my bed. Then it moved, coming toward me, slowly, flowing like smoke. I turned and I bolted from my room, but the thing, whatever it was, flashed by above my head and streaked across the ceiling. I stopped short as I entered the hall in time to see it fly down the stairs. I peered over the hallway railing, but I saw nothing. I waited for what felt like hours before I moved. Then, I paced the hallway, afraid to go back into my room and afraid to go downstairs. What was that thing? Could I have imagined it all? I glanced at the closed door of my brother's room. At least, whatever it was hadn't gone in there. Grabbing a baseball bat from my room, I slowly made my way downstairs, my eyes wide open. At the bottom of the stairs, I held my breath and stepped into the living room with the bat raised, ready to strike. Nothing. Maybe it left the house? I jumped into the air at the sound of my parakeet, Groucho, squawking like a maniac from his cage in the family room. Could the thing be in there? I slowly walked toward the entrance of the room. It was dark, and I sure wasn't going in there blind. Reaching my hand into the room, I switched on the light. Groucho was quiet now. I scanned the room, looking for any sign of the intruder. But it was empty. I was about to head upstairs when our cat, Lincoln, dashed into the den and began hissing. His fur stood on end and his tail puffed up like he was ready for a fight. But still, I saw nothing. What is it, Lincoln, buddy? I said, kneeling down to pet him. What do you see? He hissed at me and ran from the room. Then, I caught a glimpse of a speeding black shape ducking out of the den. I hurried to the door, stepped out of the den, and found myself staring at the shadowy figure, which hovered just inches from my face. I froze, the bat hanging limply at my side. I had the strange sensation of making eye contact with the thing, even though it had no eyes or any kind of discernible face. As I stood there, it seemed to be sizing me up, plotting its next move. We stayed frozen in place, the frozen, floating black shape and me, for about 20 seconds. Then, the thing seemed to panic. It dashed along the wall and climbed up toward the ceiling. Then it floated back up the stairs. It's after Wesley! I rushed after the thing, no longer worried about my own safety. I could only think of what it might do to my little brother. At the top of the stairs, the shadow figure turned back toward me. It seemed to grow bold then, and it looked me in its blank, eyeless gaze. Once again, I was frozen where I stood. As the creature stared at me, I felt a growing sense of menace, as if the shadow being now meant to do me harm. This was no mere curiosity. It was the longest 30 seconds of my life. The shadow thing started toward me. Panic flooded my guts. I began sweating, trying to get my feet to move, but they wouldn't obey. It was going to get me. And after that, it was going for Wesley. If only I could lift the bat, but I wasn't sure hitting the thing would do any good. That's when Lincoln tore up the stairs and ran right past me, hissing and spitting. At the sight of the cat, the shadow creature released me from its stare and sprinted along the wall toward the window at the far end of the hallway. It paused at the window, turned, and looked back at me. Then it vanished. Was it gone? Would it come back? Tyler? A little voice said behind me. Oh no. How much had Wesley seen? I need a glass of water, Tyler, Wesley said, rubbing his eyes with one hand and clutching his stuffed bunny in the other. Water? I said, breaking into a smile. You got it, Wes. You go back to bed and I'll bring it right in. A little while later, my folks came home. Everything okay, Ty? Mom asked. Sure, I said, a bit too enthusiastically. Why wouldn't it be? She kissed me and headed upstairs to check on Wesley. Ty, she called a few minutes later. Oh, maybe Wes did see something. Come up here and look at this, Mom said. I hurried up the stairs and found her standing at the window at the end of the hallway. How did this happen, she said. It was clean this morning. My eyes opened wide at the sight of 2 small handprints on the hallway window. That's a good one. That's a good one. I really like that one. When I was younger, that was always the one in the book that like freaked me out the most because I was home alone a lot when I was a kid. I had a single mom and I was the older sibling. So like I would be home with my sister and then I'd read some shit like this and be like, damn, this is gonna happen to me. Small left the handprint. Yeah, it was just me. I was just coming to say hi, my shadow form. It was just me. It was me, Small, all along. Goodness. God, shadow people are one of those things in the paranormal community that I like. It's kind of the most basic thing that you could see in terms of the paranormal. But I want to see one so bad. I have not ever seen something that I genuinely could believe was like a fucking shadow person, shadow being. I I need to do some like ghost hunting or something. I think it'd be so fun if we went like ghost hunting. I could stream it. We could go live. That'd be so cool. I wanna see some paranormal shit, experience some weird experiences and see a little bit more of the creepy stuff that's out there. I don't want to fucking die while doing it though, and I'm a little woman, so I need to find a group of people to go with. But I don't want to like die out in the middle of the woods because I got myself caught up. Goodness, it'd be so cool though. I'd be freaked out, but goddamn. I've always felt like because I love scary stuff, right? But I'm also a bit of a skeptic at the same time. I love paranormal things. I do believe in ghosts, and I totally do believe that there are things that we can't explain. But I'm very scrutinizing. Like, very scrutinizing when it comes to like the things that I see and the things that I hear. It's never a, okay, yeah, ghosts are totally real and I believe every last little video I see. I'm very much like, okay, but like this could have literally been anything. You know? When I was younger, my dog used to bark down the hallway, right? And this was not a isolated occurrence. My dog, right? No, skepticism is so healthy. It's good. It's good to question the things that you're seeing and question how they work, what it is, you know? Sometimes it really is just something simple. And yeah, that's chill. But goddamn, I do sometimes wonder though, right? Because like I said, when I was younger, my dog, and not even just my one dog, okay? Multiple dogs used to bark down hallways in different locations, so we different houses, right? My dog Apollo used to bark down my grandmother's hallway, just in her living room, like through to her room every so often. And then my dog Carter, in the house that I lived in for a really long time when I was younger, he used to bark down the hallway we had that went down to my room and my sister's room. And I never understood, like, if he was seeing something or if there was a stench or if he thought something happened. It wouldn't happen all the time. It was always a very weird random occurrence where, like, I'd be home alone one night and he'd just be standing at the end of the hallway, looking down, barking, or like every so often whimpering about it or something like that. And it always threw me off, you know, it always gave me that super unsettling feeling deep in my chest because like dogs have more senses than we do, you know, they have much higher senses than we do. So I always wondered, like, what are you seeing? What are you seeing down the hallway that's making you do this? Sometimes you'd have to drag him away from the end of the hallway to even get him to stop doing it, too. Like, you need to actively move him before he would come and relax and sit down. You couldn't just go down and check it out and say, no, everything's fine. Like, you had to basically grab him and tell him to stop. It was very weird. Do you watch Ghost Adventures and other shows like that? Oh yeah, are you kidding? Hey Maker, we used to fall asleep to Ghost Adventures every single night for years. We don't fall asleep all the time to Ghost Adventures now. We have been doing so a little bit more lately because we have access to it again. But goodness, yeah. Oh, I was a big Ghost Adventures girly. Big Ghost Adventures girly. That's the boys right there. That's the boys right there. Think a lot of people take it too far though. Oh, they totally do. Oh my god. So many take people take it way too far. And that's part of the problem, right? That's part of why being a skeptic is like a double-edged sword. Some people won't believe anything no matter what they have in front of them. There's always like a no, it couldn't be or something. And same for the other side too. Some people will literally believe anything. If it's weird in any kind of way, it's ghosts, it's goblins, it's the Jersey Devil, it's Bigfoot, you know? Like it was a shadow person or a poltergeist, like no matter what it is. And sometimes it really just be like faulty wiring or something like that. Sometimes your animals pick up on like things moving in your wall that you can't hear or something like that. Sometimes it really just be some simple stuff that you might not be able to perceive. I've seen people get unreasonably angry at the mere idea of someone believing in the supernatural. That sounds like they have more like I feel like they want to believe and are just angry that they haven't actually experienced something. Because what do you mean that you'd get angry at the mere idea that someone believes in the supernatural?
Actual ghosts.
Yeah,
They don't want you to believe. They're ghosts.
yeah,
That's what the problem.
for real, not for real. You gotta test them, give them a nice test. Maybe they're actually people who like. Oh, okay. No politics. But like, if y'all haven't heard, apparently our elites have gone and figured out a way to do like that soul transfer thing. Something about like taking a soul out of one body and putting it in the next. Maybe, maybe those are those people, the people who get really angry about bringing up the supernatural or about the fact that you might believe the supernatural. Maybe that's why they're like, no, you can't believe these things. You can't do that.
Somebody gets mad about the supernatural, you stab them. Because they're either possessed or a ghost, and we need to learn.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's the only way.
The only way.
Fuck.
Supernatural style, baby. Supernatural style. You throw some holy water on them. They also said they had real evidence of alien life, and I didn't care about that either. What? Wait, what? So you're telling me that they got angry when people brought up that there was like that they believed in the supernatural, but you're also telling me that they had evidence of alien life? Or wait, are you saying that like our government had real evidence of alien life and you didn't care about that either? Because yeah, the political stuff, yeah, yeah, they also said they had real evidence of alien life, and I didn't care about that either. Yeah, oh good God. Good God. There's a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff. At this point, it's like, what can you say? You know, what can you say? Oh goodness. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Is there any state that anybody wants to hear the story that comes from a specific state? We have so far read one for Arkansas, we read one for Iowa, and we read one, oh shit, what was the last one? Ohio? Hold on. What was the last one? I have it. South Dakota. Texas? You want to do Texas? Cool. Let me find Texas. Also, hi, Forgiven. What's up? Let's see. The story for Texas. It's gonna be back here. Texas, or you get the jar. Oh no. Threats. Threats. Doing it. I swear I'm doing it. Let's see. RST, right? I know my alphabet. I know how these things go. South Dakota, Tennessee. No, yeah, that's still the same. Tennessee, Texas. I found it. I found it. All right, now keep in mind, apparently, these are all based off of true stories. Apparently, allegedly, allegedly, all right? Okay, Texas. This one's called Tiny Helping Hands. It's not so often in the time since I've become the official collector of all things weird and scary that members of my family have actually gotten in on the act to help me out. But shortly before I left on a family trip to Texas, I told you I have a lot of relatives all over the country. I emailed my 16-year-old cousin Janet to ask her about a local legend in her area. From Jason Spector at scarystatesofamerica.com to JTW at txnet.com. Subjects, spooky legends. Hey Jan, looking forward to seeing you next week. Ever hear the legend of the Shane Road truck tracks? Oh, wait, truck? Did I just say truck? Train tracks, bitch. Jason. My sweet, loving cousin wrote back from JTW at txnet.com to Jason Spector at scarystatesofamerica.com. Subject RE Spooky Legends. Hey, Squirt. Yeah, it'll be good to see you too. So, what's with this legend? Another one of your creepy investigations? How old are you, anyway? Are you gonna keep doing this stuff forever? You know, soon girls are gonna think you're really weird. Anyway, no, I never heard about the Shane Railroad tracks, but I have a feeling I'm about to. Love you, Squirt. Jan. I hate it when she calls me Squirt. She's been doing that since she was 12 and I was 8. And I hate it when she tells me what girls like and what they don't. I'm not looking for dating advice. Anyway, I wrote her back and told her about the legend, since I was going to need a ride to check it out. I was hoping I could talk her into driving me. From J.S. Spector, Scary States of America, to the same person that we read before. Spooky legend. Hey, Jan. It's a really scary story, and it happened right there in San Antonio. Here's the tale. On a stormy morning a few years back, a train rumbled swiftly across the tracks. The engineer peered through the pouring rain, keeping up his speed and trying to stay on schedule in spite of the poor visibility. As he approached Shane Road in San Antonio, he thought he spotted something just ahead on the tracks. Squinting through the downpour, he hoped that the object was just a trick of the light, filtering through the curtain of water falling from the sky. But as he got closer, he realized that it was no illusion. Whatever was up ahead was very real and sitting right on the tracks. As panic swept through him, he yanked hard on the brake line and sounded the train's whistle. The whistle's piercing screech combined with the horrible squeal of the train's steel wheels, locked in place and scraping against the tracks. Only the friction of metal against metal stood between safety for whatever was on the tracks and potential disaster. But the tracks were slick, soaked by the pouring rain, and the rain was moving too fast to stop in time. The horror of the situation came sharply into focus. The engineer realized that the object stuck on the tracks was a school bus filled with terrified children. They pressed their faces against the rain-streaked windows, staring in horror as 1,000 tons of unstoppable steel raced toward them. Apparently, the bus had stalled on the tracks, and before the children could get out, the train appeared. No one survived the crash, and the community was stunned by the tragedy. Each year, the parents of those lost in the tragedy meet at the tracks for a memorial service, and streets in the town have been renamed for some of the children. Only a few months after the horrible accident, reports of strange activity at the Shane Road tracks began. People walking in the area reported hearing voices and carefree laughter of children. But the strangest part of the story, the part that really caught my interest, were the tales of cars being pushed away from the tracks, when even they weren't actually in danger of being hit. In some cases, the cars were pushed uphill. Folks in the area claimed to believe that the children who had died that terrible day had returned to make sure that no one else suffered their fate. They became guardians of the tracks and protectors of those who might venture too close. So, Jan, what do you think? Want to check it out? Jason. Of course she didn't. But then I got to Texas, and I was able to talk her into driving me out to the tracks. So, let's get this straight, Squirt, Janet said as we pulled away from her house. You want us to drive up to these railroad tracks, turn the car off, and wait to see if a bus full of ghost children pushes us to safety? Is that the idea? I admit, hearing it laid out by my extremely skeptical cousin did make the plan sound a bit crazy, but I was prepared for this reaction. It's perfectly safe, I explained, watching as Janet rolled her eyes. I picked up a train schedule, and there are no trains coming through here for 2 more hours. This is the perfect time to try it. No, Squirt, Janet snapped back. Never is the perfect time to try it. We discussed, argued, about this for a little while longer, but she gave in. After all, I let her get away with calling me Squirt. A few minutes later, we approached the tracks on Shane Road. Move closer, I said. Closer? She repeated, shaking her head. We have to be close enough to look like we might be in danger. I explained calmly. That's when the children have been known to come and help. Jan eased the car forward until the front bumper was hanging over the tracks. Now turn the car off, put it in neutral, and take your foot off the brake, I said. Jason, are you sure there are no haunted houses or alien landing sites in San Antonio you would explore instead? She said. You know, something a bit safer than driving on railroad tracks? I could tell she was nervous. She called me Jason. Jan, it's okay, I said, smiling. Trust me. Great, she said, reluctantly shutting off the engine, slipping the transmission into neutral, and easing her foot off the brake. Remind me again how I let you talk me into this. A natural charm, I suggested. Janet laughed a little more loudly than I would have liked. We waited for a few minutes, but nothing happened. The car stayed put. Then I heard it. A train whistle. We both turned quickly to the right and spotted a train coming down the track. It was still a fair distance away, but we both freaked. Jason, Janet shouted. Not funny! Is this some kind of sick joke? I checked the times. I yelled back, pulling the schedule from my pocket and realizing with horror that I had been looking at the weekend schedule. This was Tuesday. As Janet's reached for the ignition, we felt the car begin to roll backwards. Keep your foot off the brake, I shouted. Let them take care of us. The car continued to roll back, away from the tracks. And it wasn't gravity. We had been sitting there in neutral with no brakes, and the car hadn't moved at all until now. When we were about 23 feet clear of the tracks, the train zoomed past. I got a really creepy feeling watching it pound past the spot where our car had hung over the tracks just a moment ago. As the last car rumbled from sight, Janet let out a huge sigh. That's the last time I let you talk me into something, darling. She shrieked. Obviously still sleeping. We could have been killed. No, really, there on the edges of the front windshield were a bunch of tiny handprints. More small handprints covered the side window as well. I told you they would take care of us, I said. Oh my God, Janet whispered, smiling incredulously. That's when we heard the faint sound of a child laughing. What up? Hostu, welcome in, welcome in. How's it going? How's it hanging? It was car radio. Listen, so I don't remember if the place that I'm thinking of is in Texas. I would have to find the actual episode. But I do happen to know that the Ghost Adventures boys did go to a set of train tracks somewhere that basically had that exact story. It was the exact story. A bunch of kids got ran over by a train, and then it was turn off my alerts for stream. You think so? Yeah. Turn off, like, you mean like sounds and stuff like that? Yeah, maybe to keep the atmosphere. You're probably right. You're probably right. I can do that. No, the place you're thinking of is somewhere in the Midwest. Is it? Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I know the boys when by the boys for the sake of this stream, if I say the boys, assume that I'm talking about the Ghost Adventures boys, okay? Zach Bagans and the crew, that's the boys in our house. All right? Oh no, it was not the car radio. It was that one guy who always shows up with JBL speakers and can't read them. No, you're right, Austin. Yes, we don't want any more car radio incident. Yeah. Yeah, no, I know that the boys, they investigated a place that had a very similar story. Train tracks, kids getting run over and everything, kids pushing the car. They conducted a investigation at those train tracks. And essentially, yeah, turn off alerts. Okay, cool. And I will turn off alerts. I like to keep you guys down here, down with me though. So I am going to keep you guys down here with me. But let me just go in here and turn off things. Do. These. Boop. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Yeah, they ended up debunking, at least the one that the boys did. No, I'll keep that one. They ended up debunking that they actually discovered that it was an optical illusion. The train tracks it looked like when you stopped that they were uphill, but actually you were going downhill. So yeah, it was that one was actually actively debunked, but this would be a very interesting story to try and go to in what did they say, San Antonio, Texas? That would be really really interesting to see if that one was correct, if that is accurate. Whew. Okie dokie, the rest of the alerts and such are off. All the alerts, they are gone. Wait, for the most part. Hit me with your fat cock. I'm so sorry. I saw it, and I needed to. Ah! Okay. It gave me a warning. It was like, oh, are you sure? Are you sure? And I was like, yes, please. Yeah. Audio alerts. Yeah, no, I didn't do all of them, A couple of them are still like highlight message and stuff like that. But the ones that affect me and the ones that are sounds, they're gone. Do 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 do. If you want to visit a haunted place in Texas, go to the Alamo. It still has activity. Yeah, the Alamo's a good place. Yeah, the boys have been there too. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. Haunted places, I really would love to go to somewhere that's a real prominent. Let's be real. I want to go. There's a castle in Ireland. The boys also went there as well, and I want to go there. What did you say? Yes. I love the episode where the boys go to a castle in Ireland, and I can't for the life of me ever remember the name of the castle off the top of my head. But it's such a fun episode. So if I have your attention, what are we doing? We're doing scary stories. We're just taking some time, chilling, reading some scary stories. I've got a book here that I have had since I was very, very little. Like very small. It is so ridiculously toe up. The whole front cover just doesn't exist anymore. It's completely ripped off. The first page that has the name of the book on it is also about to fall off. Yeah, book scary story readings. This is a well-loved book. I used to read through these a lot. Reading creepypasta, reading true crime, reading synopsis. Yeah, no, scary stories from a book. It's called The Scary States of America, and it has a scary story in it from every single state. So, and we've already read Arkansas, we read Iowa, we read God, what was the first one? I never remember the one that we first read. South Dakota, there we go. And we just read Texas. Is there another location? Does anyone have another location they'd like to hear the scary story from? Another state? Otherwise, I can always just pick another one. I do have a couple more like eared in here that I enjoy. Maine. Maine is a beautiful state. Oh my god, it's so fun. Do it in your home state of Nevada. All right. Nevada. ABC. Yeah, we gotta go back more. Gotta go back more. Nevada, Nevada. That's New York. New Mexico. New Mexico's is the Roswell incident, by the way. Like, what else would it be? It's the Roswell incident. New Jersey. Of course that's the Jersey Devil, of course. All right, Nevada. Nevada's story is called Psychic Hero. A lot of the stories I get are pretty wild and fun to read, but sometimes I can tell that people are deeply affected by their experiences with the supernatural, and it can take a long time to recover from the trauma of an unexplained event. A man from Nevada sent this story to me on my website, and yes, the psychic elements did creep me out, but I also felt bad for the guy. I could tell that his weird experience brought up a lot of painful memories for him. Here's what he wrote. My name is Bruce Edwards, and I'm no hero. You might not agree once you hear my story, but trust me. If anything, I've always felt that I was a coward, even when I was a kid. When I was 11, my house caught fire in the middle of the night. I woke up to smoke and flames everywhere. I panicked. My heart froze and terror gripped every part of my being. I wasn't thinking straight. Who would be? I know that now, but there's still no excuse for what I did. I thought only of getting myself out of the house. I dashed down the burning stairs and raced out the front door. I was standing outside looking up at the burning house. That's when I remembered the rest of my family. My parents stumbled through the blazing doorway. My father carried the limp body of my 8-year-old sister Jenny in her arms. In his arms. My parents were in the hospital for a while. They hadn't woken up as soon as I had and were exposed to huge amounts of smoke as they fought their way to my sister's room to get her. Jenny died from smoke inhalation and burns. I was the only one who didn't suffer. I was a wreck for months, even after my parents were better and moved us to a new house. I blamed myself for not thinking about Jenny. In the 30 years since the fire, not a day has gone by that I haven't thought of her. And then there are the dreams. All these years I've had recurring dreams about the night Jenny died. It begins the same way. I'm 11. I wake up to the smell of smoke. I panic and run from the house. I feel relief when I get out. Then I see my father, carrying my limp body from the blazing inferno. In the dream, Jenny's okay. It's me who died. Sometimes, I wish it had really happened that way. At this point, you may be asking yourself, what all this has to do with the paranormal? Well, one day, not long ago, I had a different dream. It was also about a fire, but this time, I was the hero. I work at a chemical plant, developing rocket engines and highly explosive fuels. Because these experiments involve hazardous materials, we have a lot of safety precautions. All the engineers wear flame retardant coats. In my dream, however, I was sitting at my desk in only a short-sleeved shirt. Suddenly, I hear a thunderous explosion in the next lab where my friend Sandra Reimer is working. Rushing from my office, I'm horrified to discover Sandra's lab engulfed in flames. I dash into the inferno and spot her. Her entire body appears to be on fire. Moving swiftly, I grab her and carry her to the plant's safety shower, where I douse her with water, putting out the flames and saving her life. Only after Sarah is safe do I notice that my own clothes are on fire. I jump into the shower just before the flames reach my skin. When I woke up from this dream, I was really puzzled. Why would I, after all these years, suddenly dream about being a hero? It made me feel guilty to imagine being a hero, even if only in a dream, when I had failed my family. And then I had the dream again, exactly the same as the first in every detail. But the dream made even less sense now. It was odd that Sandra was alone. There were almost always 3 other coworkers in the lab with her. It was also strange that I was only wearing a short-sleeved shirt and non-flame retardant coat. And still, the dream kept coming back. The way the dream about Jenny the way the dream about Jenny had for all those years. Then one day, a few months later, I was in an office next to my lab doing some paperwork. The air conditioning wasn't working properly, and since there was no hazardous materials in the office, I pulled off my coat and was working in a short-sleeved shirt. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Suddenly, a violent explosion shook the building. I leaped from my chair and ran to the door, my heart pounding like it was going to burst from my chest. Sweat immediately began pouring down my face. I smelled the sickly, acidic odor of burning chemicals. Smoke choked my lungs, and I gasped for breath. No, I thought, flashing back to the horrid events of my childhood. Not again. This can't be happening again. Then I thought of Sandra. 2 doors down, she was working on an experiment using highly explosive fuels. The dream. It's impossible. Could the dream be coming true? I tore from the office, blinded by the smoke, overwhelmed by the sound of screaming. Panicked people fled the building, rushing past me, running away from the fire. I headed right into the heart of the inferno, and I wasn't going to leave alone. I kicked open the door of Sandra's lab. My eyes and throat burned. I waved the smoke away, only to see Sandra's face, arms, and legs engulfed in flames. Her plastic goggles had melted into her hair. She was sprawling across her lab table, and she wasn't moving. Struggling through the thick black smoke and searing toxic flames, I scooped Sandra into my arms, exactly as I had done in the dream, and turned back toward the door. A wall of flames towered over my head, blocking the exit. My vision blurred, my skin burned. I lowered my head and charged through the curtain of fire, not thinking, not feeling, just running. My legs pumped furiously as I pushed forward blindly, pain ripping across my skin. I stumbled into the safety shower, still holding Sandra's limp body. I cried as the water rained down over us, and then I collapsed. I woke up slowly, not knowing where I was. Am I home? Did I have another dream? I forced my eyes open and saw bandages covering my arms. This was no dream. I tried to sit up but fell back in pain. My vision cleared and I realized that I was in a hospital bed. I later learned that I had burns over a large part of my body, but I would live. Doctor, I called out when I saw I was not alone in the room. The doctor hurried to my bedside. Sandra Reimer, she was with me. Is she? He couldn't finish. She's alive, the doctor said, smiling. She's still in intensive care, but she's going to make it, thanks to you. I breathed a deep sigh of relief. This time was different. This time, someone would live because of me. Sandra and I spent about 6 months in the hospital recovering from our burns. It turned out that at the moment of the explosion, 2 of her coworkers were on a coffee break. The third ran from the lab as soon as the explosion occurred. That's why Sandra was alone. I still credit the strange dream for giving me the courage to believe that I could have saved someone. Not long after I got out of the hospital, I had another dream. This one was about me and my sister, Jenny, playing together as young children. This time, there was no fire. That's a good one. That's a good one. And it's interesting. Have y'all ever had that happen to you? Where you have a dream and then all of a sudden you realize later on, could be months down the line, could be the literal next day, that the dream is actively happening? Has anybody else had that? I have had this particular experience. And I guess I've never really thought of it as like a paranormal instance, perhaps. But it was like a crazy experience. It wasn't nearly as wild of an experience. I didn't save somebody from a fire and nobody got hurt. But you said I rarely remember any of my dreams. Yeah, that's how it mostly goes, right? That's how it mostly goes. For me, my experience with this, I was quite young. I was young enough that I was still in elementary school. I couldn't tell you the grade, but young enough that I was still in elementary school. And I remember so clearly, I I was in gym class. I was in gym class and we were doing my school did this thing where it was like the Great Escape kind of. It was low key meant to be like the Underground Railroad type of a deal, but for gym class. And it was this thing that was set up in a bunch of like different stuff. It was kind of, think of almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like a a a track. God, I can't. My brain. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. It was like a obstacle course. There we go. It was like an obstacle course type of a dealio, right? And I distinctly remember going through and walking into gym and having all of this stuff happen. And I didn't know any of it was going to be happening or anything like that, but I remember going in to my gym class and experiencing a whole ass gym class with all of this stuff, okay? I remember like from talking to my teacher in a specific way to certain people saying certain things. I don't remember exactly what they said, but I remember going through that gym class until I woke up in my bed. In my bed. And I was like, "Whoa, that was weird. That was like the most vivid dream that I've ever had in my entire life." The most vivid dream I've ever had in my entire life. And then not like 2 days later, I wake up, I go to school, I get to gym class, and that exact gym class played itself out. And I was freaked when it was happening because I had this intense sense of deja vu. Like, what the hell is going on? I have been through this before. I'm pretty positive that when I got home, I told my mom about it and was like, Mom, I just had the weirdest experience of my life today. Like, I went to school and had a gym class that I had a dream about like 2 days ago. She was like, "What?" It was a really, really weird experience. It has not happened to me since. I have not had the same thing happen to me since, or at the very least, not in the same intensity, not with the same gumption, because that one, it was so vivid. I still remembered the dream so, so well. And then it was uncanny how specific it got and how I experienced all of the things right on with each other. Like the way that things lined up was just absolutely wild. Absolutely insane. That is very interesting. Very interesting. I've never in my life thought of that as like a paranormal experience. I guess yeah, now that I think of it in these contexts, I definitely it could be categorized as a paranormal experience. But wow. Do 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 do. I want to read the one about the Jersey Devil. So we're going to read New Jersey. I keep accidentally pressing things on my keyboard because my hands are resting on it for reading. Do, 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 do. Okay. New Jersey, Devil in the Dark. New Jersey is famous for a lot of things. Princeton University, the Sopranos, and Bruce Springsteen, my dad's hero. But for a collector of the paranormal like me, it's all about the Jersey Devil. No, I'm not talking about the hockey team. The Jersey Devil is one of the oldest and most dangerous paranormal creatures ever reported. I put out a call on my blog for people to send me their stories about the loathsome monster, hoping I could compare them and get to the truth behind the legend. Lauren Buxbaum from Leeds Point, New Jersey, sent me this IM. God, you remember when IMs, instead of DMs, it was IMs? Old ass book. Anyway, Sparkle Girl. Hi, I have a cool story about the Jersey Devil. I got a B plus on my paper about it, and I would have done better if my teacher weren't a total supernatural skeptic. We had to do a historical report and include a first person account in it. My history teacher totally embarrassed me and like in front of the whole class when he was like, Miss Buxom, I loved your paper. I would have given you an A plus, but the first person account you claim is true wasn't a tall tale. What? That's so rude. Why somebody's trying to write down the experiences for you and for like a paper for school nonetheless, right? And the teacher is just like, yeah, you lied in your fucking paper, bitch. What the hell? What the hell? This was my experience. Your research was solid, so you get a B plus, but next time, save the stories for your creative writing teacher. I was so mad because I did not make this up, and I totally deserved an A plus, and I worked for weeks on it. So I cut short the rest of Lauren's rambling IM. She sure was bitter about her grade. Some of the teachers would probably give me an F and call my parents if I wrote a story about some of my experiences and claimed they were true. So I didn't think she got off that badly. Anyway, I did ask Lauren send me her history paper, and she's right. She did deserve an A plus. It is a pterodactyl left over from the is it a pterodactyl left over from the Jurassic Age? Or is it a sandhill crane seeking revenge for the loss of its habitat due to humans building on and developing the land? Maybe it's a hideously deformed human child, or even the incarnation of pure evil itself. New Jersey historians disagree on what exactly the Jersey Devil is, but most agree that the creature's existence began in the small town of Leeds Point in the 1700s. A number of the tales refer to a Mrs. Leeds, whose 13th child was born with horns, a tail, wings, and a horse-like head. She hid the child in the basement, but it managed to escape and wreak havoc for generations. Other stories tell of a witch named Miranda Leeds, who gave birth to a seemingly normal baby, who, only minutes later, transformed into a hideous creature with hooves and a forked tail, bat wings, and a horse head. When the transformation was complete, the beast proceeded to kill everyone in the room, including its mother, then fly up the chimney. After circling the village several times, striking fear into the hearts of the townspeople, it flapped its huge, powerful wings and headed off to begin its centuries-long reign of terror. The legend grew through the years as the Jersey Devil appeared all over the Garden State. From Burlington to Handafield, Woodbury to Bristol, did I say Bristol? Descriptions of the creature varied, but an overall picture began to form. A 6-foot-tall flying creature with a 3-foot tail, leathery bat-like wings, and the face of a dog, horse, disfigured child. Or the devil himself, depending on who you ask. The creature is reported to emit a blood-chilling screech as it attacks its victims, often stopping them in their tracks. As I researched the creature's exploits further, I came upon some astounding tales. Strange footprints have appeared on New Jersey farms around the bodies of dead chickens and cows. Police have spotted the flying beast and shot at it, describing its cries as a cross between a piercing scream and a growling bark. People have seen the devil circling above their homes, later finding hoofprints on their roofs. Others reported hearing a beating of wings and an unearthly screech, only to sadly discover in the backyard the body of a beloved pet with its throat torn out. In Vineland, a German shepherd was found 25 feet away from the collar and chain to which it had been attached. The body was torn to pieces. The hoofed tracks surrounding the body could not be identified as those of any known animal. The Jersey Devil has also attacked motorists. A Salem, New Jersey cab driver told of stopping on the side of the road to fix a flat tire. Suddenly, a flying beast appeared, leading to the roof of his cab. The creature, which he described as tall, like a man, but completely covered with hair, and with a long tail that came to a point, wide wings, and an eerily childlike face, shook the car violently. The terrified cabby fled, abandoning his vehicle. Police received at least a dozen calls within minutes of the attack from people in the area, who reported a large screeching bird with a long tail circling above their homes. Two couples parked in the Pine Barrens reported hearing a loud screeching sound before something landed on the roof, smashing it inward. As they ran from the car, they turned back to see a monstrous, bird-like creature destroying the car. It took to the roof of its huge claws, then shredded the seats with its razor-sharp beak. The couple fled, but returned later to the damaged car. Again, they heard the shrieks and this time saw the beast, perched in a tree, tearing away the bark as it beat its mighty wings. Not one to go along with legends lightly, I sought out an elderly woman named Margaret, who had actually seen the creature herself right here in Leeds Point. Margaret said she would be happy to share her story with me when I called her. I rode my bike to her small farm and she welcomed me into her home. "Why did you choose the Jersey Devil for your history report?" she asked, handing me a glass of iced tea. Everybody in class was doing something boring, like a paper on Walt Whitman or Thomas Edison, and I wanted to be unique. Something cool about Jersey. I studied up on the Jersey Devil. Did you know that a lot of people believe it was born right here in Leeds Point? Margaret smiled. Yes, I have heard that. I switched on the tape recorder I'd borrowed from my grandma and Margaret began her story. Margaret had always lived on a farm in this part of New Jersey. From the time she was a little girl, she recalled mysterious livestock attacks. Every so often, her family's farm would be invaded during the night. The next morning brought horrible scenes of mutilated animals and damaged property. Others in her town were occasionally troubled by these attacks, but it seemed that no farm was hit as frequently as Margaret's. Then, one winter evening, when she was about 16, Margaret was finishing up her evening chores by the light of a full moon when she caught a glimpse of a shadow in the snow. She looked up and spotted what appeared to be an enormous bird, silhouetted against the moon. Then, she saw the tail. "I'd never seen a bird anything like that," she told me. And that's when it let out a scream. No ordinary bird could make that sound. As the flying bee swooped down toward her, Margaret froze in fear, unable to run. She stared up at the creature and caught sight of its head. It had a wolfish snout, and its screech changed to a snarling growl as it revealed a mouth full of sharp canine teeth. The creature was closing fast. I couldn't move my legs. I could barely breathe, much less scream, she recalled. I was certain I was going to die right there in the snow. I looked down at the pitchfork in my hands, hurling it like a javelin. I tossed the tool up, hoping to scare off the devil, but it swooped easily out of the way and kept coming toward me. I was doomed. Blam! Blam! Suddenly, 2 gunshots rang out. I turned my head and saw my father. His shotgun was still smoking. He had heard the beast's cries and burst from the farmhouse with his gun. The 2 shotgun blasts seemed to scare the creature away. It howled and flew off into the night. "I hate to think what that might have happened to me if my father hadn't come out," Margaret said as if I finished my interview with her. "That was the most scared I've ever been in my life, and I don't scare easily." "Wow," I said. "That's a great story. Did you ever see the creature again?" "Fortunately, no," she replied. "Though that doesn't mean that I will never return. Or that it will never return." "Thanks," I said. "This is really going to help me with my paper." As I got up to leave, I realized that I had never gotten Margaret's last name. "Leeds," Margaret told me. "My family has lived here for a very long time." It was then that I looked up at her bookcase and took in the long row of ancient books with titles referring to sorcery and spells. If you don't mind me asking, are you into witchcraft? I asked nervously. Margaret smiled. A bit. It's mostly just a historical interest of mine. These books were handed down to me by my generations of Leeds women, starting with the great 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 grandmother, Miranda Leeds. She kept smiling while I nearly dropped my iced tea. Miranda Leeds was the witch who gave birth to the Jersey Devil. Maybe the creature wasn't violently attacking the Leeds farm at all. Maybe it just wanted to come home. See, okay. Didn't she say she had an actual occurrence with the monster though? Wasn't that more so just her telling about the fact that she went and met with a woman and this woman told her occurrence and then she realized it was actually like a Leeds? She didn't have an occurrence, damn it. What? What? No. I don't think that counts. I don't think that counts, and I think she deserved a C plus. No, I don't think that counts. Goodness. Good goodness. The Jersey Devil is an interesting thing though. I think cryptids that are basically just giant, potentially undiscovered animals are pretty interesting just because of like why haven't we seen it more? How is it that we've gone so long without discovering things, but then at the same time, right? We're always discovering new things. I mean, we don't even know what the hell is in the oceans. We have no clue what's going on down there. We know surface level stuff. That's it though. That's it. Mostly surface level stuff. And other than that, it's not like we've made every single discovery of every animal that exists. I mean, there are even animals we thought to be extinct that we still are sometimes seeing and catching glimpses of. So I'm perfectly happy not knowing more about the ocean. You know, Poisson would tend to agree with you. Poisson would tend to agree with you. You would be perfectly happy not knowing what's in the ocean. Yeah, yeah. He just went, yep. The less I know, the better. See, I'm the opposite. I really would love to know. I would love to know. I am a person who, as long as I know what my limits are, I'm still gonna go in the ocean even if I know what's in there. If scientists came out in a few years and said, "Yeah, there's actually aliens living under the ocean," I'm pretty sure that's an actual theory. If there's actually aliens living under the ocean and there's crazy monsters down there that they have that they'll send up here and blah blah blah, I'd still go swimming in the ocean. People would look at me like I'm crazy, but I would. I know that it's unlikely that they're gonna come to the beach where I'm kicking my feet, you know? I'm not gonna go super deep diving in the ocean, but like I definitely do it. I definitely okay, all right. I totally believe in Bigfoot. Like I totally think that Bigfoot could absolutely be a thing. Some sort of a primate of some kind that maybe even is actually like a think of the step down, the evolutionary step down of us, and there are just some that are still present or something like that. I don't know if that would be quite as likely, but I don't know. I could totally see it. Lots of animals prefer to practice lots of camouflage and stuff like that. And even if it's a big ape thing or what have you, there's ways that you can hide. The woods are a crazy place, The woods are a crazy place. So, who knows, I think that Bigfoot could absolutely be some sort of like a lost primate that is just trying to evolve into being what we would see as like a step down from a human, you know? I could see it. I could see it. Well, Miss Wee. Oh, Miss Wee. She came in, she go moo. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do do do. Okay, hold on. I do think I might take a quick break just to get some water, and then we'll come back and we'll read some more. Ooh, and probably we'll start with Montana. Harvesting Organs is what this one's called. Harvesting Organs. Yeah, quick break. Just so I can grab some more water, so that my voice doesn't go, so my voice doesn't go. My favorite RimWorld story. Is that what it's called? Harvesting organs? Do you harvest organs in RimWorld? Is that a thing you can do? What's going on? Oh god. I'll be right back. Do 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 do. Oh boo 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 boo. You said, oh, let's not start that. Damn, damn. I've heard things about RimWorld. The fuck. I'll be back. I'll be back.
My dog has.
Oh, oh, Miss Wee. Miss Wee. She squared up. Miss Wee squared up. Do, 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 do. I have water. Ooh, I have water. Water. I actually drank a cup while I was in there too. All right. Next story, Montana. Harvesting organs. My email buddy, Cowboy D. Key lime water? That sounds odd. Key lime yogurt? Delicious. Water? I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm not always the biggest fan of like flavored waters. It's a very hit or miss situation. Alright. My email buddy, Cowboy D's real name is Darren Floyd. He lives on a cattle ranch with his mom and dad in De- DePoyer, I think, Montana. When we first became online friends, I thought it was weird that a cowboy was into the paranormal. But when he told me what happened on his ranch, well, it all made sense. From Cowboy D at FloydRanch.com to J. Spector at Scary States of America. Subject: cattle mutilation. Dude, love your website, read your blog all the time. Creepy stuff. I never thought about ghosts and UFOs, but now I'm a major fan. It's because of what happened on my dad's ranch. Want to hear the story? Jason responds, Cowboy D, do I want to hear the story? Do cows, eat grass? Cowboy D responds, "Well, I've seen cows eat just about anything you put in front of them, but I'll take that as a yes." I'm 14 now, but from the time I was a little kid, my dad, Harvey Floyd, told me the stories he'd heard about cattle mutilations in Montana. He also heard the talk of UFOs and aliens doing it, but he didn't believe any of that. My dad grew up and worked around livestock his whole life. He inherited our ranch, called Floyd Ranch, from my grandfather. Like me, he grew up here. My dad couldn't figure out why anyone would want to hurt cattle, but he didn't buy the UFO theories. He believed wolves, coyotes, and mountain lions were the more likely killers. That is, until he saw things with his own eyes. My mom and dad and I were outside finishing up some chores one evening when we spotted a circle of light shining down from the sky. It lit up the hog pen. Then two pairs of small red and green lights appeared below the larger white light, like flies buzzing around a porch light. "Wait here," my dad said as he stepped slowly toward the lights. I was a little scared as he moved closer to the hog pen. I don't think I ever saw Dad scared before, but I could tell by the look on his face and the way he was moving, real quiet, that he was spooked. "There's something wrong," Dad called to Mom. "We shouldn't stay here at the ranch tonight. We have to leave." Now, I'm not one to disobey my dad, especially with that look on his face, so I hurried to the car. Mom and Dad got in, and we quickly drove away from the ranch. But the weird lights followed us into the darkness. The large white circle hovering just off the road, keeping a few feet behind our car. But the smaller red and green lights flew alongside us like they were escorting us off the property. Then, when we were a few miles away, all the lights suddenly spun into a wide U-turn and sped back in the direction of our ranch. My dad kept driving. He told me later that he wanted to turn the car around and drive right back to the ranch. He wanted to find out what was going on and protect his property if those strange lights were some kind of threat, like he suspected they were. But he couldn't bring himself to do it. He couldn't risk our safety. "We can go to Wanda's," Mom suggested. That's my Aunt Wanda, Mom's sister. She lived in the next town. "Spend the night, then go back in the morning. I'm sure everything is going to be all right." Weirdly, none of us talked about what we thought those lights might be. I think we just hoped everything would be normal in the morning, that this was all some kind of strange dream. We drove the 10 miles to my Aunt Wanda's house and spent the night there. Not wanting to scare my aunt and her family or get them thinking that he was a lunatic, my dad told them that our house was being fumigated and we needed to sleep somewhere else for one night. He said he was sorry for the short notice and nobody asked any questions. I didn't sleep so well that night. I was tossing and turning. I couldn't get the picture of those lights out of my mind. My dad, who's usually a good sleeper, told me the next morning that he had a real bad feeling that kept him awake most of the night, too. After what seemed like forever, the sun finally rose. I jumped from my bed and ran down to find Mom and Dad already at the breakfast table, anxious to get back home. After we ate, Mom thanked Aunt Wanda and we headed for the ranch. At first, when we pulled into the driveway, nothing looked unusual. Could the whole thing really have been a dream? I wondered. Run, welcome in. Yes, horror stories today. Doing some story time. But when he stepped into the barn, so this is fully AI channel? No, there is no AI. I'm not AI. I'm a real person. There's no AI. All the things you see here are made by real people and are being puppeted by real people. And I'm reading a book that I have had since I was very, very small. It's called The Scary States of America. Somebody in YouTube. No, Tara, It's all good. No fights in the cave. Yeah, no, it's all good. I know there are lots of people who don't necessarily encounter like VTubers and all of that a lot that do kind of assume that all VTubers are just like AI. Yeah, so I totally get it. There's a misconception out there a lot. But yeah, no, I'm just a real person and I just use I use various programs and stuff to make my character move. Here, I'll show you what I look like. Me? I'm a spider lady. Hope you don't freak out, but you know, I'm a spider lady. Somebody drew this for me and made it move. And I use a program to make it do so. It follows my face. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I would assume all YouTubers are AI, but you never really know. You know, that's totally fair. Especially nowadays, like, it's crazy. It's crazy. I can assure you, I am indeed a person. Yes, I am a spider lady. But when he stepped into the barn, Dad quickly discovered why the lights, whatever they were, wanted us away for the night. It was a horrible sight when Dad finally let me see what happened. 3 cows were dead. One was torn apart, all its internal organs were missing, but there was no blood around the body. Another cow stared up at me with empty sockets, no eyes, just holes in skulls. Or in the skull. It had 2 heads. The third cow had had all of its blood drained from its body. Its skin hung on its bones like an empty feed sack, squeezed dry. I ran out of the barn, sweating and more nauseous than I've ever been in my life. I was ready to puke. Dad looked like he felt the same way. Harvey, Darren, what is it? Mom cried. She had waited outside. Don't go in there, Ruth, Dad cried. Just don't go in. I shouldn't have let the boy in. Maybe Dad was right. Maybe I shouldn't have gone in. I'll never forget what I saw as long as I live. Dad hurried to the hog pen, where he had first seen the lights. A nightmarish scene waited him there, too. I followed Dad to the pen, where we found a hog standing perfectly still, stiff as a board. Dad pushed the animal, and it tipped over, tumbling to the ground like a cut tree. It hit the ground, and the sound of its bones shattering inside its bag of skin pushed me over the edge. I turned and hurled in the nearby bushes. I wanted to run, but I couldn't look away. I caught my breath as I watched Dad kneeling beside a second hog. This one was lying on its side. Its jaw was missing, and its body looked spongy and wet. Dad looked sick. This was his prize hog. It had weighed in at an enormous 250 pounds. Help me move it, Darren, Dad said. Dog, isn't he like 14? Or not even? I squatted next to him and grabbed the animal's hind legs. We were stunned when we lifted the body easily. It weighed only 20 or 30 pounds. What could have done this? Dad asked. But I could tell he already knew the answer. The stories he'd never believed were true. Our ranch had been visited by aliens who had conducted bizarre experiments on the livestock. Who else could have mutilated the animals this way? Mom and Dad decided not to report the incident. They didn't want to be featured on the front page of the papers as total nutcases. They just wanted to put it all behind us. Still, I couldn't help wondering if the deadly visitors would ever return for more animals. Or human victims next time. Dun, dun, dun! That's a good one. Human mutilations and things like that, that's a very interesting topic, right? A lot of it is just animals. Like, a lot of it really is just, oh, a coyote came in and they mutilated my cow, or a mountain lion came down and ate some of my livestock, or what have you, wolves, whatever. But when it gets to weird stuff, you know? You go out and you see your animal is completely drained of blood. You go out and you realize that your animal has very specific pieces of them that are missing. And not just like pieces that it looks like got ripped off by something trying to eat it, but pieces that look like they were surgically taken from them. Why are the eyes missing specifically? Why is the jaw missing specifically? And the no blood thing around the animals, that's another thing too. If I Part of me wishes that I worked on the farm a bit longer than I did when I was younger, because when I was younger, I worked on a farm for probably like a year, 2 years. I would go like once a week to this farm, and it was a cow farm, and I would help them with the cows. And I don't remember ever asking them if like any weird stuff had happened. I definitely didn't see any cattle mutilations or anything, but I have always wondered, like, I wonder if they did have weird things happen or anything. That always freaked me out than the killing part when the specific parts are gone, right? Because that's the freaky part. You go out and some animals are dead, like that's the circle of life, right? Like I said, it could be anything, it could have just been animals, but once the specific parts are gone, that's like, okay, what the hell's going on? Did somebody come onto my property and actively like detain somehow my animals with anesthesia to conduct like a surgery on them to make this happen? Because I mean, especially for big animals like cows and like pigs, even, it's not like they're gonna just sit there with no anesthesia or anything and let you take their jaw off, you know? And especially with no other wounds, no other anything else on them to actually like indicate, okay, it was stabbed here and then somebody did this to it, or like it was shot here and then somebody took out its eyes or something like that. That's scary. Like, what could do that? What could do that? Aside from, aliens. Like, that's insane. That's insane work. I would That would be something for me that I would love to experience that kind of a thing firsthand. I am not the kind of person who gets disgusted easily by gore or crazy gory scenes, horrific scenes and stuff like that. I'm not that kind of person. I would be so intrigued. I would see all of that and be like, "Holy shit, this is real." Like, "Holy fuck. What I'm seeing, this is real." And there's no explanation for it. I'd be telling everybody that story. There were aliens in my barn. There were aliens. They mutilated my people. Oh, I totally could turn into. They mutilated my animals. I'd totally turn into that girly. Let's see. We did Iowa, more aliens, Edna Collins Bridge. Let's do Colorado. Let's do Colorado. This one's called Here I Am. Please come find me. Psychics love my site. You hate Colorado? Why do you hate Colorado? Nah, Colorado's dope. What do you mean? I've been to Colorado one good time on a lovely trip with Poisson. And it was so, oh my God, it was so serene. It was so nice out there. Oh my goodness. We want to go back at some point. It was beautiful. I need an explanation, Tara. Why? What's wrong with Colorado? No. Oh, water. That sounds delectable. You said because I lived there. You actually miss it a lot, but holy shit, is expensive to live there. Yeah. Yeah. We we also have thought about wanting to try and live in like the Colorado area, but that's, yeah. even moving to Colorado is so hard to do. The bit that we've looked up to see about doing it, the people who live there basically don't want new people coming to the state. Essentially, the places that we looked up, the we called a couple and they were like, "Yeah, actually, you need to have lived in Colorado for 6 months before we will allow you to rent here." And that was like at a few locations that we had seen. I was like, "How does that work? What do you mean I need to have lived there for 6 months already? I'm trying to find a place to live there. I'm trying to find a place to live there, but you're telling me I need to live there for 6 months before you'll even, like, give me the time of day?" It's crazy. Rent there was, like, 4 times higher than where I am at now. That's crazy. Yeah, that's wild. Big sad. It is a beautiful state. It is a gorgeous state. Absolutely wonderful, but goodness. Yeah, I don't know if we would ever end up living there either unless we found a really great deal. Like a really great deal. Okay. Hold on. I need to blow my nose. I don't know why my nose is getting stuffy, but I hate it. I need to take care of it. All right. Jesus, I was a little worried. You ever go to blow your nose and for some reason it like just keeps coming? For some reason as you blow your nose, you need to blow your nose more vigorously and it just keeps going that way. I was a little worried that that was gonna happen. Sometimes that be happening to me. Poisson has heard me sit there blowing my nose in the bathroom for like fucking 15 minutes before. It's ridiculous. I'm glad that that did not happen. I was definitely a little worried. Where were we? Here we go. Psychics love my sight. It just be like that, exactly. I think some of them use it to drum up business, contracting people they think they could use their help. I don't mind, really. Sure, there are a lot of fakes out there, but there are also a lot of people who have a gift and want to use it for good. I'd been IMing back and forth with a psychic medium named Gina MacArthur of Durango, Colorado, who is so well known and accepted in her community that the police often use her to help with the impossible to solve cases. I asked her to email me the case she was proudest to have solved. Here is her story. I work closely with the police, so I can't say I solved this all by myself, but Plus, I like to think that the victim is the one who gives us the help. I'm just the vehicle to communicate messages from the other side. 27-year-old Marilyn Tilbert had lived in Durango her entire life. She had worked for a local insurance company and had lived in a modest apartment. Then, one day, 5 years ago, Marilyn vanished without a trace. After days of searching, the police still had no clues as to her whereabouts. They did, however, have a suspect. Marilyn's former boyfriend, Stuart Traynor, had a criminal record, including several convictions for assault. In the months leading up to her disappearance, Marilyn had made several calls to the police emergency line to report incidents of domestic violence. Marilyn's friends described Traynor as an abusive individual who was prone to outbursts of rage. Finally, 2 weeks before her disappearance, Marilyn had broken up with Traynor and gotten a restraining order preventing him from coming within 100 yards of her. Traynor's friends told the police that he was enraged by the order and had threatened to make Marilyn pay for it. Several eyewitnesses also said that on the day Marilyn disappeared, they had seen Traynor leaving the apartment building where she lived. The police arrested Traynor, but they feared that without Marilyn's body, they wouldn't have enough evidence to prove he was guilty. And so, as a last resort, the Durango police chief contacted me. I'm always the police's last resort, but I don't mind. They would be out of a job if they didn't come to me first with every case. I asked them to take me to Marilyn Tilbert's apartment so that I could try to receive psychic signals from the woman by surrounding myself with her possessions. Now, not all police officers are on the psychic bandwagon, and I always hear a lot of sarcastic comments about my abilities. Durango Detective Harvey Otis was definitely a non-believer. I think this is all a load of bull, ma'am, but I've got my orders, Detective Otis said as he held the apartment door open for me. I understand, Detective. It's best not to argue with a non-believer. They change their tune pretty quickly once impossible cases are solved. The apartment was dark and musty, with a depressive air that overwhelmed me. As I walked from room to room, opening drawers and closets and holding Marilyn's clothing, jewelry, books, and trinkets, I had to stop myself from bursting into tears. In all my years of psychic work, I had never felt a victim's pain and hopelessness quite like this. Marilyn, I said to myself, I'm here to help you. You're still afraid and so sad, but that can all go away if you let me help you. Where are you? Help me find you, and you will finally be at peace. I turned the corner into the kitchen and the sadness and fear disappeared. What happened next is difficult for me to describe. Psychic visions always are. It was as if I were on an emotional roller coaster. I leaned against the doorframe with my eyes closed, the images flashing before me at fantastic speed. 1 second, I felt panicked, then desperate, then terrified, and the next moment, nothing. It was as if I were dead. I had never experienced that type of feeling, and I hope to God I never feel that way again. I never know how long these psychic states will last, but when I opened my eyes, I was lying on the floor, surrounded by the police. Get an ambulance, I heard one cop shout to another. And some water. Gentlemen, I said as calmly as I could, please help me to the table and get me some paper and a pen as quickly as possible. I am perfectly all right. No need to worry. After calling off the ambulance, the officer sat me down at the kitchen table and I began to transcribe every roller coaster moment. I scribbled the words road, water, knee, decapitate, and church as quickly as I could. I noticed one of the policemen look at his fellow officer and make the cuckoo sign near his head. Detective Otis, I said when I had finished, I have some things that might be of use to the case. The detective took the piece of paper and looked at it for a moment before turning to stare at me. These things don't just arrive as easy, prepackaged solutions, I said, giving up from my chair. They come in bits and pieces. Now, let me tell you what they mean. I began to recite the following list. When I opened my mouth, I spoke in a voice completely different from my own. I will be found near a main road. I will be lying near an embankment, a creek, and a bridge. A church will have something to do with locating me, as will salt. There are leaves all around me. I am missing my leg. My head is no longer attached to my body. A man with a bad knee will find me, and the first initial S will be involved in some way. Detective Otis wrote down everything I said, but I couldn't help noticing the skeptical look on his face. He thanked me for my time and had an officer drive me home. The police chief later told me that Detective Otis had returned to the station that night and using every available officer, focused the search on creeks that intersected the main roads. He told his officers to search bridge embankments at the points where roads crossed the creeks. He also mentioned the church and the salt, although he wasn't sure what role either would play. He told his officers to look for a body buried under leaves rather than in a grave with freshly dug dirt. 2 days after my vision, one of the Durango officers was exploring Route 160, which intersects Lightner Creek in a few spots. He had already checked out several bridge embankments along the route with no success. At one spot along the route, where a bridge crossed over Lightner Creek, the officer had begun exploring the leaf-covered embankments when he happened to glance across the creek. There, in full view, was a salt storage facility where the highway department stored its salt for use on roads in winters. Recalling that I, or should I say Marilyn, had said that salt would have something to do with the location of her body, the officer pulled out his checklist. His heart skipped a beat as he reread the list, which included the mention of a church as well. He had thought nothing of it at the time, but about half a mile up the road, he had passed a kids' camp that was run by a local church. Continuing down the list, he had nearly fainted when he read the last 2 items. The officer's name was Stephen Sachs, and he had injured his knee playing basketball the previous weekend. Officer Sachs quickly radioed the others on the search and asked for help exploring the area. Within minutes, 20 officers arrived and detailed a search of the embankment began. As it turned out, Officer Sachs himself found the body, covered with leaves and lying in a shallow grave. Marilyn's left leg was missing, and her head was discovered some 15 yards away from the body. Traces of Stuart Trainor's DNA on the body later confirmed his guilt, and he was eventually convicted of the murder. Marilyn really wanted to be found. She wanted justice, and she wanted to be released from the pain and terror she continued to feel in the spirit world. The incredibly strong psychic signals she had sent were her way of saying, "Here I am. Please find me." Marilyn's spirit could not rest until her body was found, so that her killer could be brought to justice. What? That's a cool one. That's a cool one. How do y'all feel about like psychics and stuff? Like, do you believe in psychics? I I know that there's a lot more hoaxy psychics than there are real psychics. Cause I mean, a lot of psychic work, you know, you like the show Psych, does that count? I don't think so, because he is actively a hoax as well, right? Like, from what I understand, he's just really, really observant, and then he just says that he's psychic. So, I mean, like, I don't know. That's basically what a lot of, like, hoaxy psychic work is, too. It's just being aware. A lot of the time, people will actively tell you what they want to hear, like as they're telling their psychic about it, and they don't ever catch it because they want to hear something that makes them feel better. And that's what a lot of psychics and psychic work, is. It's like people who pretend to be psychics who just happen to be good at getting information out of people to the point where they can give them an answer that feels comfortable to the person. You believe in ghosts? I don't believe in psychics. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I don't know that I believe that most psychics are real. I do think there could be a few out there. A few out there that are indeed actually real. The real goddamn deal. They can sense energies and they can sense forces, and I don't think things like this, helping police with certain investigations and stuff, but I think they're very few and far between is what I think. I think they're very few and far between. Do, 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 do. Very interesting to think of though. And not to mention a huge skill to be able to be quite that observant to the point where you could successfully pass as a psychic to people, you know? There's an episode of Modern Family, funny enough, that comes to mind. Um, and it's an episode where Gloria specifically takes Alex to her psychic to get a reading and do all of that. They go a couple times. And of course, Alex, if you've seen Modern Family, Alex is the smart one. She's the one who's got the good head on her shoulders that is like, "Oh, I know everything." She's such a skeptic. And to be fair, she's right. The actual psychic themselves is absolutely a phony. Absolutely a phony. But she ends up at by the end of the episode realizing why Gloria and, therefore many other people go to these psychics is for the comfort. That feeling of just, I want to feel like my person is giving me a sign. I want to feel like whoever I'm trying to contact or whatever it is I'm trying to figure out is actually happening or is actually here in the room with me for at least long enough to tell this person that like they love me or that things are going great for them or something. And sometimes that's just what people need is like a bit of extra comfort surrounding a loved one that they lost. And it's weird. I don't necessarily vibe with it, but if it makes some people feel better, help some people process their grief, perhaps, then like, whatever, do your thing. What I don't like is psychics who take advantage of people. That's what I don't like. That's what I don't like. I don't like psychics who like actively take advantage of the situation and just make it worse. That's just stupid. That's just stupid. And your job is essentially giving people more issues at that point. And that's booty and stupid. Let's see. Dudleytown, the scariest place in New England. Connecticut. Yeah, let's do this one. Let's do this one. Dudleytown, the scariest place in New England. From D. Stark at ctnn.com to J. Spector, scarystatesofamerica.com. Subject, Dudleytown, Connecticut. Jason, my name is Doug Stark. I read on your website about haunted buildings, curses on families, and attacks by strange creatures. Well, there's an evil forest in northwestern Connecticut that combines all of those things. My buddy Andy Barlin and I knew about the 400-year-old family curse, the weird lightning strikes, the sightings of dark spirits, the glowing lights, the scary creatures, the bizarre phenomena of nature, madness, death, and insanity, and the lives destroyed by the Dudleytown Forest. We just never thought any of that would happen to us. Andy and I grew up in Ellsworth, Connecticut, the best of buds. Every Halloween, we talked about spending the night in the creepy Dudleytown forest. When you grow up in Connecticut, you get used to playing in the woods, but everyone talked about how there was something sinister about the trees in Dudleytown, and how the place was always dark. Of course, no one ever actually spent Halloween there. Even after Andy and I were in high school and could drive, fear always won out over curiosity. Well, fear in girls. You ever notice how girls like to wear skimpy outfits on Halloween, even when it's really cold out? So our senior year finally came. We were each going to different colleges, and this would be our last Halloween together for a while. It's now or never, dude, I said to Andy 2 weeks before Halloween. Are we really going to do this? Are we really going to spend our lives emailing each other about how we really should have done it when we had the chance? Andy rubbed his chin for a moment, weighing the choice between really cool bragging rights and hanging out with our friends. Yeah, he replied, shrugging. This is our last shot. Let's go for it. Bragging rights won. Andy and I took his car on Halloween night and headed toward Dudleytown. I think back to that moment every day. My life would be completely different now if we had just gone to a party that night or maybe TP'd someone's house instead. The sun was starting to set as we drove the half hour to Dark Entry Road. Dark Entry Road. Man, if this were a movie, people would be laughing. Could it be any more obvious? Andy said, laughing. It is cursed, you know. It's the only forest I've ever heard about that's actually evil, I said. Yeah, I know. All that stuff that happened in England, Henry VIII was pissed Edmund Dudley tried to overthrow him. So he chopped off his head and cursed the whole Dudley clan. Horror, death, insanity, hemorrhoids, Andy joked. One of Dudley's kids thought that he could escape the curse by coming here in the 1700s, but he just brought the curse with him. Remember the dude who bought the place after the Dudleys bolted? His whole family got some weird sickness and croaked. Then there was the general in the Revolutionary War, whose wife got struck by lightning, even though it was a clear sky. That dude was mental, I said, trying to remember even more scary stories I'd heard over the years. Uh-oh, Andy cried. We're leaving out Dr. Clark's nutcase wife. Remember? He bought the place in the 1920s. He had to go to New York City for 2 days, and when he came back, his wife was flipping out about a dark creature who ran out of the forest and attacked her. She went mental, too, and they put her in the nut house. Duh, lady, don't you know Bigfoot when you see him? I said. Even though we continued to laugh at all the horror stories we knew, I was starting to get a little scared. I couldn't admit it to Andy, but by the time we reached Dark Entry Road, which, despite its name, is actually an idyllic-looking lane that leads into Dudleytown Forest, I was thinking about bagging the whole idea and turning back. Unfortunately for us, Andy parked the car and started to get out. Doug, come on, let's go, he said. We could just go back and hang out with Mike and Jordan instead. Tell them we got lost on our way, I suggested. What? Dude, we drove all the way here. And two, we would get so much grief from them about being complete chickens. I'm gonna see me some demons tonight, baby, he yelled. There was no arguing with him. His reputation was at stake. He had to go through with it. We left the car at the start of the road, since we've told everyone we'd go into the forest on foot with nothing to protect us except our own wits. The sun was dropping low in the sky, and it was starting to get dark. Almost immediately, I noticed the total lack of sound. Whereas a second earlier, I could hear the wind in the trees, the chirping of birds, and the scurrying of squirrels and chipmunks along the falling leaves. Now, nothing. Not a peep. Did it suddenly get colder? Andy asked, turning up his collar and zipping up his jacket. Now that you mention it, I replied. The temperature did seem to drop when we stepped in here. And is it just me, or is there no sound whatsoever? Where's the wind? Why don't I hear animals? They're probably all possessed. Andy shouted, doing the world's worst Count Dracula impression. We continued on in silence. About half a mile in, we heard a weird scratching noise behind us. We looked around, but couldn't see anything. What's that? Andy whispered tensely, pointing to the ground behind him. There, carved in the soft dirt, were the words, "Never return." Satan. Goodness. Shut up, you just did that. I'm not a moron, I said, punching Andy in the arm. The Satan part is a little over the top, man. Doug, Andy said seriously, you and I both heard that noise, and I've been standing right next to you the whole time. I didn't do that, dude. Fine, I said. Someone put that there to freak us out. Freak people out, then. What the hell? Oh, there we go. Someone put that there to freak out people like us who were coming here to check it out. I don't know, said Andy. It looks like it was only scratched into the ground a minute ago. Look at the mounds of dirt around each letter. If this had been here for a while, they would have blown away in the wind. Come on, I said, surprised to find myself being the brave one. There are supposed to be some ruins of old Dudleytown houses at the end of this road. Maybe we can spend the night in one there. As we left the dark entry road and entered the dense forest, the final crimson rays of sunlight faded to gray behind the stone foundation of an 18th century house. There's nothing left of this place but some stones, Andy said, peering over the edge of the foundation. Suddenly, a white circle of light moved across the trees. Don't turn the flashlight on yet, I said. Let's wait until it's really dark. Doug? I didn't turn on the flashlight, Andy stammered. That wasn't you? I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. No, I whispered. Then what's that? Andy said, pointing at 3 glowing white orbs dancing among the trees. Not waiting for my reply, Andy took off, running deeper into the woods, which, like, what? What are you doing? Wait for me, dude! I shouted, following my friend. We had Satan telling us never to return, and now weird orbs were flying around. It was not the time for the two of us to get separated. Andy stopped running and I practically crashed into him. It's really dark, he said, trying to catch his breath. I'm going to put my flashlight on so we can find our way back. What about those white floating things? I asked nervously. I don't see them anymore, Andy replied, clicking on his light. But I think we should head back. Yeah, I agreed. We're totally telling Mike and Jordan we got lost. I don't care how much grief I get. Now let's get the heck out of here. Andy's eyes suddenly opened wide. Looking down, he began grabbing at his shirt and pants. Doug, get them off me, he shouted. Get them off! I shined my light on Andy's body, but I saw nothing. Get what off? I asked, alarmed by the terror in my friend's eyes. There's nothing on you, Andy. It's bugs, Andy screamed, clawing at his clothes, his face contorted into a mask of horror. They're crawling all over me! Get them off! They're eating me alive! Doug, help! They're not real, Andy, I screamed, recalling stories I had heard about people in Dudleytown who had suffered from hallucinations. It's just your mind, dude. You have to focus on me. Andy, focus. Andy dropped to his knees and began yanking at his hair. He actually tore a bloody clump of hair from his head. Take them off! I grabbed him by his shoulders, forced him to his feet, and shook him hard. Andy! I shouted, slapping him right in the face. Andy! Andy jerked backward, breathing hard. He looked down the length of his body. Oh my God, Doug, he cried. It was so real. I saw big, disgusting bugs crawling over every inch of my body. I felt them. I felt them bite me. He clawed at his clothes, looking for bite marks and for the creatures that had just tormented him. Come on, I said, grabbing Andy's arm and handing him a bandana to hold against his bleeding head. We're leaving before anything else happens. With each step, the gnawing sense of doom inside me grew. Someone, no, something was watching us. Waiting, small shapes darted through the darkness on either side of us. The perfect silence was broken by high-pitched shrieks echoing in the dark trees. I felt my chest tightening as we retraced our path. Andy clutched his head and breathed hard. I wanted to assure him that we'd be okay. Dark Entry Road was just ahead. I noticed as we approached the foundation. I was about to say, we're going to get home safe. But before I could, a flash of movement caught my eye. We both froze in terror at the sight of a swirling black blob rising from the foundation. The expanding blob changed shape, its inky blackness so thick that it stood out against the night sky. I can't move, Andy groaned through his clenched jaw. I'm trying to force one leg in front of the other, but I just can't move. Before I could respond, the shape enveloped me. I gasped for breath. The very life was being sucked from my body. I felt like I was about to pass out. Then, images began to fill my mind. Mutilated, maggot-filled corpses lay strewn around me. I knew I would soon be one of them. Then, I blacked out. Soft rays of sunshine woke me. Andy was sprawled out on the forest floor next to me. The corpses were gone. Andy, wake up! I shook him gently. He opened his eyes with a start and jumped to his feet. Without saying a word to me, he headed toward Dark Entry Road. Wait up! I shouted. Andy turned and peered at me with a look of fear on his face. Never return, he croaked. Those were the last words my best friend ever spoke to me. We made it back home that morning. We had spent the night in Dudleytown and survived. But from that day on, Andy never spoke another word to anyone. The doctors at the institution have tried to shock treatment to see if he'll at least cry out in pain. But he's like a walking dead man. As for me, pre-Dudleytown, I had always been a pretty happy kid. Post-Dudleytown's another story. The voices and visions start each day around sunset and torture me through the night. Yeah, I'm not in a mental hospital like Andy, but I don't exactly get out much. Why didn't he just stay away? Ooh, Dudleytown, Connecticut. I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm gonna have to look up Dudleytown, Connecticut, and see if there's a bunch of other stories surrounding that area. Trees are evil confirmed, right? Trees are evil. I feel like the stories of like haunted stretches of land are always so weird for me to believe. You know, like it's a bit harder for me to believe them. I believe that land can hold energies and stuff like that. I believe that land does remember things that happened on it, you know? It's like etched into the history of the land. But it's another thing when you start saying that like literal forces are taking you out, you know? I don't know about that one. I sort of lost it when the hallucinations kicked in. Yeah, no, that's the thing, right? Like once it's hallucinations and stuff, how are you able to how are you able to believe the story? You know what I mean? Like there's several things that could have happened. Maybe there's some kind of a spore from a mushroom or something in the air that they had a bad reaction to or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird one. It's definitely a creepy one, you know, the thought of going out into the woods at night and just like experiencing some absolutely crazy stuff. But at the same time, like it's so much harder to believe. So much harder to sit there and be like, "Oh, wow. Okay, that definitely happened," you know? I would be really, really interesting. These are the stories that make me go, okay, I want to go here. I want to experience it for myself, you know? If you're saying that this is the story that happened, I want to now go to this place and actually see for myself what it's like in this area so that I can confirm, you know, my own visuals, my own thoughts, my own things that I've heard, you know? They make for very interesting stories. Faux show. Faux show. Good. Mm. This one reminded me of the witch movie. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Are you a fan of the witch? I love scary movies, but let me tell you. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of it. There are lots of people that sit there and screech that it is such a good movie and it's like so phenomenal and I was not really here for it. I did appreciate that the witch existed. I did, but I was not it was not something that actually like gripped me to the point where I was actively scared. Yeah, like you said, it definitely went way too hard, way too fast. Way too hard, way too fast. It's how do I even describe? Yeah, I can't, honestly, I can't. All I know is like that was definitely one of the movies that when it first came out, I saw all these people being like, "Oh my God, it's so good! My God, this movie's so great! Great horror movie!" And then I finally watched it, and I was highly disappointed. Like highly disappointed. Goodness. Wow, it's been a while since I've read this book and like actually read these stories. First half of the story was good. Yeah, no, totally. Absolutely. The first half of the story was good. It was great at making you feel some tension. Reminded you of Fatal Frame? Ooh. Oh, okay. I could kind of see that. Yeah. I could kind of see that. Fatal Frame's a good one. I need to play those. I watched Gab Smolders play them a few times now since they're her favorite games. But I really should play those myself because they definitely look like games I would enjoy the hell out of. Oh, yeah. This has been a fun one. This has been a fun stream. I'm glad that I chose to try this out. I like reading scary stories. I like reading scary stories. They might be better suited to a video or something. But I think regardless in this format, it still can be a pretty fun time. Plus I get to like the way this book is set up with the whole oh, it's different states. I can be like, "Hey, chat, what state you want to hear a story from?" And that's great. I love that. Love that a lot. Woo! Good. Oh, that's not my water glass. I have way too many cups around me. At least they only had water and they're not like old to the point where they have things growing them. All right. That is gonna be where we call it for the day. Scary times for the day. Scary stories read. If you have more scary stories, any scary stories that you would like me to read at some point or something like that, go ahead and send them on over to me in the Discord. And like I said, I might do this kind of a stream another time. Oh God, I might do this kind of stream another time as well. Because I think it was a good time. I had a good time for sure. So yeah, totally. If you find more really great horror stories and things, totally send them my way. Otherwise, yeah, you liked it? Thought it was a good time? Good. Good, good. Very good. Yeah. It was a good time, wasn't it? Wasn't it? I'm glad I got to reread that story with the shadow people because seriously, when I was younger, I remember that one freaking me out so much. And I wish I could remember why it freaked me out so much because I think there was a reason. But I specifically, like, I read this whole book multiple times, and that story was always the one that really, really chilled me. Shadow people are a scary phenomenon. Like, seeing shadow people, shadow beings, and stuff like that, that's a scary phenomenon. More so than, like, walking into the woods and, like, all of a sudden you get a hallucination. At least to me, just because, like, a shadow person is in your home, it's in your space, or it's in your work, it's at your job. It can be on the street as you are doing nothing. I already don't have good eyes. I don't need to be jumping in shadows, right? Right? No, exactly. Exactly. It creates this sense of unease from something that is generally so normal. Like questioning your own shadows, thinking that you're seeing it move without you moving. That kind of a thing. That is so unsettling. And that was always like I told that story of my dog, right? I brought up how my dog used to like bark down the hallway and stuff like that. Whenever that happened, that was definitely what I was expecting. Is like, okay, is there a shadow person down there? Is there a being of some kind that I just can't see? I always expected something that was like a shadow being. They're just so unsettling, to see something that is a shadow but knowing you're not making it. Potentially with like glowing eyes too. Some people see shadow people with glowing eyes. Goodness. Wild times. Wild times. Mm. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me, though, my sweet, sweet bites. I appreciate you so, so, so much. Thanks for chilling for these very experimental streams that I've been doing too. We did the co-working stream last week. We did the story reading stream this week, and yeah, we might do something else a little fun for one of the streams for next week as well. So stay tuned. Yeah. I will see you later. We are going to be playing more of that point and click game that we started last week for tomorrow night. It is called An English Haunting. And it was pretty great. I think we're about to get into some juice, like to some meat. So that should be a great time. We might even finish it. I don't know how much longer it is. I know that it's not particularly long. So there's the chance. There is always the chance that we do end up finishing it tomorrow. That'll be cool. Hope to see you then, my sweetums. If you're new here, then follow the Discord, follow me here on Twitch and also on YouTube, and I hope to see you again sometime here in the cave. Have a nice day, y'all. Stay lovely, stay wonderful. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.